So that was Fürstenau study number 2, opus 125. I'm Julian Sperry, and that was for the Fürstenau challenge. There's a Just Giving page for help musicians organised by Elizabeth Walker and team. In preparing for the context of this presentation of this particular work, I decided to imagine it was a cadenza of a slow movement, so it needs to sound free and spontaneous. The starting marking is lacrimoso, which is sad or plaintive style, and later on in the piece there's a marking mancando, which means fading, and I thought possibly not dynamically just, but also in colour, texture and pacing in particular. There are various sequences in the piece. For example, before presto, etc, etc, and those sequences really need to be brought to life, and they need to have a sort of journey of travel through them. There are also arpeggios and chromatics and trill sequences, and I think all those need to be expressed and thought out how you're going to sort of present them. At the end there's a very high A in piano, pause and into the silence hopefully, and I use the C sharp instead of the usual pinky positioning, so on the C sharp, and in the third finger left hand you have open holes hopefully on your flute, and you can use that flexibly in order to lift pitch as it goes quieter. Now this is not actually my main flute flute's broken, so this doesn't have a split E and I'm not quite used to it, so the first E of the piece was a little bit of a fear for me, if you like, which it wouldn't normally be. So there are other tools you can use which I wouldn't normally recommend, but if you have a very fragile flute on that particular note, which is possible, and F sharps as well, you can use finger off, which tends to be a little bit flat in piano, so it would be for a forte dynamic, or you can add the spatula lower trill key either with or without the pinky, and that will either be sharper or flatter, and then again you can use the open holes to sort of blend the pitch. Again, you have to really think about how the sound's going to connect into the other notes, because it can sound very different otherwise. There are repeated C's in the andante, and I think in practice when you're first starting or with a young student, I might suggest that you would use triple tonguing on the triplet and then use double tonguing on the notes of 4 demi-semiquavers in order to really get the grouplets very, very clear and precise and in the right framework. Lastly, last two things really, remember that this should really be approached, in my opinion, as a musical journey and as a performance of something that's could be presented in a concert. So it's not just a technical exercise, and I suggest that with my pupils that scales are like an arc of sound connected rather than just technical exercises. Again, I think you always need to think musically, so you draw that into the pieces and the repertoire that you then perform, and hopefully there's more of a connection rather than being too separated. And the very last thing is, the most important thing I think, is really to enjoy and to commit to the line and the music that you're making, and that makes it much more fun and communicative with your listener. So enjoy, and happy and hopefully a better 2021.